One person who will be closely watching Saturday's main event is former interim lightweight champ Tony Ferguson. El Kukui is riding a 12-fight win streak, so Chael, is Ferguson the automatic next man up for the winner of Khabib versus Poirier?
Helwani, I'll tell you this much, he automatically should be. I don't believe that's ever been named. However, Khabib and Dustin both talked to Brett Okamoto of ESPN and said, that's who's next. Whether I win or he wins, that Tony should be next. The fans seem to be saying it. The media seems to be saying it. Everybody's saying it, absent of Dana White, which makes you wonder, okay, is that just some room for in case this Conor talk and Conor comes back? But I haven't heard Conor calling out Khabib or Dustin. I mean, most recently he was calling out Frankie Edgar. 2 weeks before that, he was going after Nate Diaz. I mean, it appears that there is no Conor factor there. And I think that it is very obvious if you're looking at the rankings that yes, Tony Ferguson gets a shot.
I think it would be foolish for us to sit here and say 100% without any shadow of a doubt, Tony Ferguson is next, because this man has had the title shots taken away from him. He's had a slew of bad things happen to him. I don't think we could 100% say that, especially if Khabib wins, because we know that that matchup seems to be cursed. By the way, what if Dustin Poirier beats Khabib Nurmagomedov? Khabib is 27-0. And what happens if some freak thing happens in this fight? Dustin wins. You're telling me they're not going to try to run that one back? You're telling me the rematch wouldn't be even bigger? And yes, as you mentioned, Conor McGregor is out there as well. Let me be very clear. Tony Ferguson should be next. It would be a crime if his next fight is not for the undisputed UFC lightweight title. He has surely done enough. He has not lost a fight, Chael, since May of 2012. That is absurd. My son, my oldest son, was 3 days old the last time he lost a fight. I've had 2 children since his last loss. It's been that long. And so I think this guy has done enough. I think we could all agree on that. But I also know that there's politics, that the lightweight division is somewhat of a mess, that there's the Conor factor, that if Poirier wins, they might try to run it back. A lot can happen here. So to answer the question, yeah, he should be next, but I don't feel confident in saying, because the UFC isn't coming out and saying it, that Tony Ferguson is next. Now, by the way, Chael, they offered him the shot to be the replacement fighter, to weigh in, to get some money, to fly to Abu Dhabi. He turned it down. He said, I'm no replacement fighter. And you know what? I respect that. I like the fact that he doesn't want to be painted with that brush.
And I will tell you this too, one thing that I really have noticed and just couldn't help but observe in this, but whenever you're talking about Tony Ferguson and you want to anoint him right away and say he is next, you really demoralize the rest of the locker room. There's some very meaningful guys who have done some very heavy lifting on that list that you just put up. I mean, Gaethje comes to mind, Cowboy Cerrone comes to mind, Ally. These are really tough guys, and you don't want to tell them that there's no opportunity. I want to focus on one thing you said, though, because it is very relevant. It talks about how fast the landscape of this sport can change. If we learned anything just a couple weeks ago, okay, Daniel Cormier goes in and fights Stipe. Daniel's supposed to win, and then we're going to get the big John Jones match. That match is not even discussed anymore. It is only will Daniel fight Stipe again. So I think that you're very above board to bring up the point that if Poirier gets the jump on Khabib, we're having a whole new conversation, and it may not involve Tony. So it is one of those things. If you're in Dana's position, let's just wait. Let's see what happens, and then let's make the announcement.
I also think it's very important to watch how this fight plays out on Saturday, Chael, because if Khabib has a relatively easy time with Dustin Poirier, if he leaves the fight, relatively unscathed, not injured, all that stuff, I suspect that he's going to try and turn around rather quickly December 14th in Las Vegas and try to get one more fight in this year. To your point earlier, he has not been very active, and I think he wants to get back to being active. So if this is an easy fight for Khabib, if it ends early, I think that they might try to turn him around. And the reason I bring that up is because if he does turn around quickly, I think then Tony's chances increase. I don't think Conor McGregor will be ready for December 14th. I know he told me recently that he wants to return this year. I don't think the stars will align. And so I think if Khabib is saying he wants Tony to be next, and if he does return very quickly, then Tony's chances of fighting for the belt before the year is up, and what a great story that would be, I think increase exponentially.
I fully agree with that, because how long does Tony want to wait? I mean, don't forget, this is what he does for a living. Does he want to just sit around and wait, or is eventually he going to go, look, if this guy's... I mean, Khabib in his last fight, won the top, but he got suspended. Nobody saw that coming. So I think it's one of the reasons that Dana can't just come out and say what's going to be next. You just have to let the chips fall. I mean, you bring up a fantastic point that if Poirier beats him, all of a sudden the rematch is on the table. if we're just being, if we're just throwing things on the table, let's say Khabib wins and out of nowhere calls out George St. Pierre. I mean, let's just say that that happens, Ariel. Do you think we're not at least going to have a discussion? Yeah, man, of course we are. We've got to wait and see what happens to the question, though. Sure, Tony deserves a shot, no question.
And lest we forget, back at UFC 178, Conor McGregor smoked Dustin Poirier in less than 2 minutes or so. So you're telling me if Dustin wins, they're not going to try to do that rematch? There's a lot of factors here, but I think we could both agree Tony should fight for the belt next. Hello, everyone. It's Ariel Helwani. I just came here to thank you for watching our ESPN YouTube channel. It's the best. You know what else is the best? The ESPN app. You can get highlights, analysis, all that stuff and more. And if you want premium content and live streaming sports, there's only one place for all of that. It's ESPN Plus.